Hello? No, someone set it up, but not their post.
Then.
Ah, what are you up to?
Oh, how sweet.
Oh, hey, you just got sprung, dear.
Okay.
Hello, how are you?
Oh, I'm doing okay.
You're on your little lonesome, eh? And no one come to play with you.
Yeah, well, I don't know over there. It's 1:30 in the morning over here.
Oh, okay, well, that makes sense.
Yeah, so just came
Well,
out.
why don't you go to sleep?
Oh, I was at a party, so I'm all riled up.
Oh, okay, okay.
Yeah, yeah. So I figured, pop online, see what's going on. Throw a hang up on. I don't know. If anybody wants to chat.
Hmm.
How are you doing?
Yeah, well, it's so. Oh, yeah, not too bad, not too bad. I just posted a couple of videos. I had a couple of grumbles about people that were attacking the book without any due cause other than the fact that I got their noses out of joint.
Oh, your book? They were talking about your book?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Excuse me.
Yeah, I've got 3 reviews at the moment, and they're all very critical,
Uh,
and
well,
unjust so because they don't attack the facts. So I just had a bit of a I put up a video about that particular fact, and the other thing that I've been doing was I had an interesting session with a young uh, Islam guy on Facebook. So I put up a video about that particular topic as well. So that's me.
okay. Sorry for the bad lighting.
Um, in a minute, I'm just going to the point where I'm at it.
Yeah. What time is it over there in Australia?
3:30 in the afternoon on a Saturday, I think we've got. Where are we at? Yeah, Saturday. So you're 1:30. So you're Saturday. You're just dipping into Saturday. We're almost. What are we? 12.
That's right.
Yeah, 3:30. So we're almost heading to the end of our Saturday.
Wow. Yeah, you're 14
Yeah,
hours.
we're way ahead of you guys. Yeah, what's happening over in America today?
Uh, I know, I didn't check the news today.
Didn't you?
No, I didn't check the news.
Hmm. I haven't had a look either. Hmm. So what was your party about?
It was a wedding.
Oh, who got married?
A couple named
Yeah.
Jamie and Chris, friends.
Oh, okay. How old are they? Are they probably 30s, are they? Or
Yeah, in their 30s.
it seems, would you say that's the current trend? I mean, in my generation, you were married at around about 20 or just early 20s. Would you say it's a fair comment that this generation it's around 30s?
I think people wait longer, but from what I see, I don't like to talk about it much, Rob, but weddings are kind of in my business, what I do.
Ah, right,
So,
right.
yeah, I don't like to talk about it. So this is out there already now, but yeah, I don't mix my Google or YouTube with my Facebook. You got too many crazy people out there. I don't, I don't give my real identity or nothing like that. I don't need to. I don't need to be known worldwide.
Yeah, I get that. Unfortunately for me, I've got to sort of cross that threshold because I'm rather passionate about the debate, and I've got a very specific agenda. So I put it out there. I've got nothing to hide, or nothing that I care about people knowing.
Mhm. Well, yeah, I mean, especially if you're gonna, you're writing a book, and you want to sell them, so hey, something like that, you want to go worldwide for sure.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it'd be great to make some money off it because it's cost a bit in effort, but the more important thing for me is to have that serious open discussion with the theists and really challenge their right to existence.
Mm.
Yeah. So, I think that requires. See, one of the issues I found in my research was that there were three elements to the religious dynamic. There was the good, whatever that might be, the ego or the evil side, and then there was secrecy. And the two things that I have grown least fond of are ego and secrecy.
Hmm.
So, I mean, if you're going to take that argument out to the public domain, you've got to be prepared to bear all yourself, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, there you go.
But sometimes, how should I say?
I didn't get that. Sorry.
No, I'm trying to put my thoughts together. Like it's 1:30 in the morning here. I'm having a drink.
Oh, there
Um,
you
um, Let me gather my thoughts. I guess I didn't expect to get into a deep conversation.
go.
Uh, um, I've been reading some stuff on the Tao and Taoism. I don't know. You
Yeah.
ever looked at Eastern religions and stuff?
Yeah, I have a bit over the journey. I mean, to me, they're all the same thing when you take the magic crap out of it. They're all about the same agenda. It's about
Well, I
individual fight.
have found something different, and I listen. Someone that some like Buddhism might not be considered even a religion. It's more of a philosophy because they're not believing in a God per se. When you're
Mm,
dealing with the Abrahamic faiths, um, and I was a Christian for 30 years, Catholic, Protestant, born again, all that stuff.
mm,
But and you're dealing with a God that's this king, this ruler, this dictator. That's the type of God. This entity outside the universe, and they always put the man on the throne and all that stuff.
yeah, yeah.
And I'm finding in um, looking like I'm reading here and there the Tao Te Ching. I read some sayings and stuff, and my idea, the Eastern way of how they look at God or deity is just so different than these other religions. There's not this.
Well,
Go ahead.
sorry, no, you go ahead.
You gotta bear with me, all right?
That's all right. I was just looking at the monkey. My wife's put a monkey up on my backdrop.
A
Yeah,
monkey?
anyway, a little thing we picked up from Niagara Falls when we were over there. Pulling down, if I can, without pulling the whole set down. See this guy here?
I love. What does it say? Niagara Falls?
Correct. Sorry, I got my hand across it. There we go.
Were you at the Niagara Falls?
Yeah.
Did you go on the boat? Put on the blue
Yep, we did.
poncho?
Yeah. Bloody. We got there and it was raining, and we had to walk through the rain to get into the building to get the ponchos. It would have been a better idea, I think, if the driver had carried them with him. So we were pretty wet before we even sort of got near the boats. But no, it was a great experience. Really enjoyed it.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
went. Yeah,
Sorry. I
I
was just
went.
going to say you were talking about. See, I find with any religious discussion, the whole thing starts off on a screwy premise because you basically got two models of this God thing. One is a concept where it's apart from you, it's out in the, it's like you said, it's on the throne and all that. And I know that story and I know how it got made up, and that's crap. And then on the other side, you've got this concept of something internalized or something as part of the person or the persona.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, when you enter a debate, no one takes the time to have a little bit of a discussion about that as the precursor to the discussion. And so people bring in their own fixed ideas, and never the twain shall meet, sort of thing.
Mm. Well,
So
I mean,
that's why.
yeah. I mean, I have my ideas, but I'm not out here trying to convince anybody either way. Um, I think what are the appeal of deism and pandeism and stuff like that? You're kind of taking a middle of the road approach, and it says in the Tao um, that the middle road is the best road to take, and I kind of like it because um, as far as people of especially Christians, and that's who we're bumping into most of the time. At least we can agree on that we, see some kind of creator beginning intelligent design, we have some common ground. Exactly not the same, of course not, But then on the other side, um, with atheists, I guess you label yourself an atheist, Rob?
No, I don't know whether you've picked up
You're
on that.
a anti-egotist.
That's me, yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
So I'm the guy that says Jesus is real, and he's probably one of the best philosophers on the planet, but he's a man. And then I say in the same breath that
I know.
the religions are bullshit and all concocted by empires
I know.
that have used it for control. That's me, sort of thing.
Yeah, I know, Bob. I've heard I've heard your thing
Yep.
quite a few times. I understand. Yeah, I know where you're coming from, and I would agree. I would agree that's part of the problem, and I would also agree the ego is a problem.
Oh, massive, yeah, massive problem.
That's again, talks about that in a lot of Zen thought about um, detaching yourself. There are a lot of suffering that we have is from attachments we have.
Correct.
Attachments to our ego, our identity. We have to keep this persona up. We gotta play. We play the game. It's like we're little pieces on the Monopoly board or some shit.
Yeah.
So we play this role. In society.
Well,
So go there going on. Yeah. So you attach yourself like. I actually was going to do a video. I just saw a video of this guy in Alaska, and he was talking about what is success, and I wanted to do a hangout about that, and so especially here in America, in a lot of the world is very materialistic, and we attach our things, ourselves these things, because you're told that this is what happiness is, the house with the white picket fence and the 2.5 kids and the dog, kind of idea,
But that's exactly what it is, though. It's so when I think of ego is a thought inside your head that may or may not have anything at all to do with reality, but it's certainly a thought that relates to the self.
Mm-hmm.
All right? If it's not a thought that relates to the self, then it's an observation of reality.
Wait, say that again? You say that again?
Yeah, I was just saying that if it's not a thought that relates to the self, right, that's my definition of ego, then it's simply an observation of reality. So I draw that very sharp line between what I define as ego and reality.
Mm-hmm.
And I think our 5 senses are our feed into that reality perspective, and then the ego, which kicks off, I think, probably around about puberty, it really gets a burst on then. But it's a very primitive force, I think, that's why I show that video of the baboons, the baboon hierarchical model.
Yeah.
So their survival models all built around the king of the tribe, and the whole set of behaviours that community adopts are driven by that king. So when I say ego in the personal level, it's about the individual, and it's very much, I think, tied to the carrying on of the seed of that particular individual, such a survival strategy, versus you get some people that really don't look at things that way. They tend to look at the family unit, or they're the selfless folk, and then in that model everything's toned down, and it's very much more love thy neighbour and all that sort of dynamic. So it's those two models, and that goes back to that two-wolf thing. So, although I might struggle expressing it, I think I'm pretty clear in my own mind how things work. But the ego phenomena is to me the root of all evil. Yeah. And in the societal,
I know you talk about love being and being the goal here is to be selfless, right?
well, I think the best choice in life is to whenever you're trying to decide what the hell to do. Well, actually, I think I kind of tend to think that the selflessness is it's as built in as the ego, right? So there's your two wolves, basically.
Right.
So
and I would call it yin and yang, same concept.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's that duality thing.
Yeah.
And although with yin and yang, you've got two realities, and the best decision in those realities is take the balance point. But in the two wolf scenarios, it seems to me that the best choice is to adopt the herd approach, which is to love thy neighbour. So if in your decisions, well, how do I act in a certain situation, if I give over to the needs of the others and put myself secondary, then I'll get a better return on that investment of that decision. Whereas if I take the other approach and I say, no, I'm going to make sure that I take full advantage of this situation for myself and stuff the rest of the people, I get a very low return on that investment or that decision. So
yeah, and I don't. Again, I'm going middle road. I'm going for balance, and a lot of this, in Zen, is about getting that balance. And I think there's a need for both of them. There is a need. I think the problems come is when either or go to the extremes. I don't know. I'm not going to be one. I cannot see being a pure altruist, that I'm not going to think of any of my own needs. I mean, what good can I be to anybody else if I don't have certain my own needs met? I have to have certain, some of my own needs met, roof over my head, income, whatever, and that's self. There's no ways about it,
not necessarily. I mean, if we break that down, you could examine that in a bit more detail. You said that, see, for me, I don't regard it as a selfish act of, going getting some food.
Okay, well.
Right? Because that's just a primary requirement. Putting a roof over my head, well, in my context, I know that, like, our house is not the, like, we own it, but it's not the best in the world, and I would like to have a better house for my family. But the thing that drives me to change the current house is about their needs, not mine.
Mm-hmm.
See the difference? Like, I'm okay with just the bloody, the roof over my head. I'm fine with that, just for my personal needs. But I'd like them to have a better living environment, or I'd like to improve to their end. So, I think there's what you're defining as I have to take care of self. I kind of take them as given. They're just part of the living experience. There are certain things that you just have to do, and you'll do them comfortably. But
now, outside of family, the problem I see, because like you say, you have those people who are the other side of the fence. They're take advantage of every opportunity. Now, for me, I don't, I think opportunities can be good or bad. It's all about a person's attitude. So now you get a person like, you know, that you're describing, who wants to give to others, think of
Mm.
others first. You have the people in the world that will eat these people up. They kind of look for it because they're takers. They'll try to get anything they can out of somebody. And I think one has to be on guard, when in what you're giving of yourself, who you're giving yourself to. Be on guard on, kind of have a discernment about
Yeah,
people, you know.
I agree. But I understand your point. But what I'd say to you now is that now that I understand these dynamics, these two wolves, if you like, that's the simplest way I can describe it. It puts me in a very strong position because I can generally pick up people that are a threat,
Hmm.
and I can be quite tough with them, even though they might be bigger than me. It doesn't sort of faze me. So I feel confident in my ability to handle myself against, what you're observing as a valid threat.
Good.
I don't need my ego to protect myself, is what I'm saying. I feel actually stronger without the ego dynamic
All right.
person. So,
You know what?
and the way, sorry,
I'm what I was fine. It brought a thought to my head. I am
yeah,
more, what you're describing there. Since I left Christianity, okay, I've seen a freeing of my mind. I look at people totally different. When I was a Christian, I looked at people as saved and unsaved,
correct, yeah,
and people who needed help, Christian or not, because you're in, you have this what I call Catholic guilt because was in Catholicism, this set that if someone comes to you that you almost feel guilty if you don't help them because it's like you have to do this for Jesus, you have to do this for God, you
Can
know,
I explain?
you know what
Can
I'm
I
saying?
explain?
No, no, I'm
Yeah, I
listening.
do.
So, that kind of that person kinds of be, more gullible. So since I left Christianity, I look at people, I judge people strictly on their character, what they're doing, what they're saying, what they're doing. Is it
Yeah,
matching? And I got to put myself in check as well. And so I look at it differently, and I can actually spot what you're saying, quicker. You know.
yeah, that's exactly right. But what I was going to say to you is this: that indoctrination that you get with the Catholic Church, from my study, is quite deliberate. And what it does is it places in front of you a premise that you're born into sin, that you're actually guilty, um, that you're a bad person, and it's about becoming from this bad position to a good one.
Yep.
Yeah.
And
So
that's another thing I see differently as well too. This whole concept that you're
that's a false premise. That's a
yeah,
false premise. It's
yeah,
actually the reality is quite the opposite. We're actually born perfect, as it were, and as we go through life, and particularly our modern style of living, we really become that egoic persona, and then we spend the rest of our friggin' life trying to shake it off. That's that detachment thing that you were talking about.
yeah.
Make sense?
Oh, definitely. I'm definitely hear what you're saying because that's why I look at people. I look at it now that you're born like a clean slate, and then you have all this input that your parents put in their school and church and temple and all that stuff, and they're writing on the blackboard. You were blank blackboard, and now they're writing this and writing that, and that's how the corruption starts. I mean, there's good things too, but that corrupting thing comes after the fact. I don't see it no longer like when I was a Christian, where you were born that by default. You were wicked and headed to hell, that kind of
Yeah.
thing.
Right. So it's all about saving, and that was actually very consciously delivered that way in the book of Isaiah. That was the way they wrote that thing. Now, my research says that was all written by the Persian Empire, and they took over Judaism, and to this day they still own it in a sense, or at least that theology has survived. you look at Isaiah very carefully, it's in two sections. The first section is about guilt. So what they were doing with the Jewish population, they put Yahweh up in the sky, up in the clouds, and they said he's sitting up there watching you little grasshoppers run around your circle, so you can't escape his vision. Now you're guilty for all of the attacks that happened upon you from the Assyrians and the Babylons. That's your fault. God that we put up on the top of the snow dome, he's not happy. He's really pissed with you people. That's just totally illogical. But from the Persians' point of view, it was a strategy to take control of the Jewish people, and then they were able to take control of the peninsula, or the, Israel, and they needed that because their next step was to move into Egypt, right? So, to me it's as obvious as the nose on your face what they did, but unfortunately it's very hard to convince other people that that's actually what happened. If you come forward in time and you actually listen to the Gnostic Jesus, you get a whole different perspective, and it's more in line with the Buddhist thinking and the two wolf story and Plato and all that sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the story I'm trying to tell, and I really want to challenge the religions, because I think they're very harmful. It's harmful for people to think that way, that they're born into sin and then they look at people as different. It's much better when you get away from that and just look at people with these potentials, and their choices are the things that let them down. Yeah.
Amen, brother.
Don't you say amen to me, I don't like that. How you doing? You should be going to bed, I think, mate.
Nah, I'm good for, well...
Are you going to work tomorrow, or what's your story?
Not till later. Not till later, so I get some sleep. Even if I went to bed, another 2 hours, I'd be good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm at the other end. I've got to have my sleep.
Yeah, I need like 6. If I get 6 hours, I'm good.
Yeah.
I'm happy.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I suppose.
Past tomorrow, then we have a holiday here.
What's the holiday?
Monday's Memorial Day.
And what's that celebrating?
Memory of military people who died.
Oh dear, yeah.
That kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But it's just, it's a joke, really, to tell you the truth, because most Americans, I don't think it's more about the barbecue, and the beer and the beginning of summer. No, it's the unofficial beginning of summer kind of thing. It's the official, that kind of deal.
Well, we do the same over here. We have an Anzac Day. It's the same thing.
A what day?
Yeah. We call it Anzac Day. What you call Memorial Day, we call Anzac Day. A-N-Z-A. Yeah, A-N-Z-A-K-A-C. It stands for Australian New Zealand Armed Corps, I think.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's a combined Australian New Zealand Memorial Day. But I have a very different view on wars now, because I've started my research beyond the days of the Roman Empire, and I got to say, I think there's a heck of a lot of wars that were very contrived and should never have happened, basically.
Yeah.
Except for ego.
Well, I definitely feel here America's, it's like an empire between them and the EU. I think it's and they're losing their grip.
Oh yeah,
We're
big time.
thin, and we're in debt up to it's just like the Roman Empire. We're doing the same exact things as the Roman Empire. We're spreading ourselves thin, devaluing our money, right? And it went broke.
Yeah, I think it's a little bit different than that, though. What I'm learning so far is that I think that you've had people in high, well, particularly very wealthy people, and there's been a group of influential people that have really screwed with your systems to their advantage.
You're talking about the
So,
Rothschilds and the J.P. Morgans and the Bilderbergs,
yeah,
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 the
yeah.
central
I think
bank, the
that's,
Federal Reserve, yeah,
yeah, correct.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I think all of that is probably more real than we give it credit for. It'd be really great to have a full-on open investigation of that story. But I think
Well,
fundamentally, I think the
now you have the threat of Russia and China now because they're where it's funny. There's a lot of propaganda going over here against Putin. I know you don't like Putin,
not
and
at
I
all.
don't know all the ins and outs about it. But as far as when it comes down to the economies and what they're trying to do, them in China, you know, they're they're looking to go to a new currency, and it's probably going to be gold backed, and that's what it should be. And that was
Mm,
our problem. We lost all our gold. Our
I
currency
agree.
is not backed by gold. There's no silver in the money anymore since the
Mm,
60s. And this is what I'm trying to say. It's just like the Roman Empire. They started devaluing their currency once they started doing that, and that's what's happening
mm,
here. So who bought all the gold? China, Russia, India. Okay,
yeah.
they're buying all up and cheap too. And now they want to start
Well,
because they're fed up. They're exactly fed up with the same thing we're talking about here. They're fed up with the
yeah.
Federal Reserve and the control these people have, and so in a lot of ways, what they're doing over there is in a way a good thing, and it's gonna be a wake up call.
Well, no, I think it's a bit worse than that. I think you guys are possibly missing something.
Okay.
Um, what I think's going on, I think that America was taken for a ride for quite a long time because there's a lot of people that made a lot of money out of, out of that economic structure. You've got a really dramatic income split in your nation, So, but here's what I think, right? Um, I think that the cash cows run out in America, and the people that basically ran that into the ground are now moving their backing behind Russia and China, and they won't stop there because the ego nature is such that it wants it all, right?
Mhm.
Now, America as a dynamic at the moment is really starting to challenge all of the empire dynamics from all fronts. So America is becoming very, let's say, enlightened about the religious paradigm, and there's a strong atheist upsurge, which makes it uncomfortable for these people. The other thing that's happening is that the economic model is being challenged quite strongly, and to the point that people are really looking for those conspiracies. There's a very strong conspiracy movement that's getting a lot of strength in America, and also the gun debate. People in America will not give up their basic rights. So for people that like control, that's a very uncomfortable position to be in, particularly if they're the ones that at the end of the day might be exposed. I think what these guys are doing, and I don't think they're going to sit around and wait for anyone to catch them. I think what they've done already is they've moved camp to Russia and China, because if you look at the Russian dynamic, that's still 70% religious, right? So that means that they can easily control that population, and Putin, whether we like him or not, he's got an iron fist grip on the country at the moment. Then if we look at China with their governance model, they're very much governed by an iron fist as well. And then you come down to those nutcases in North Korea as well. So, I mean, if it were me and I had all that money, and if I was, someone like a Rothschild, and I had been fiddling the books for a while, I'd be looking to get out of Dodge, and I'd put all my effort into setting up Russia and China for an attack on America, so that I could actually make that big play to take over the whole shooting match. Because once I got to that position, didn't matter what people thought. They could think all they like, I just wouldn't care. You see what I'm saying?
I think so.
Yeah, so what, when I look at because I'm a big picture kind of guy, and I like to look behind all the rhetoric, and if I look at Putin, I look at his personality, and I try and classify him. Is he a good wolf or a bad wolf, a bloke feeding a bad wolf or a good wolf? And to me, he sings to me bad wolf all the way, and a real bad one. A guy that runs around with his shirt off, that's an immediate white flag to me. Or red flag.
Just because because he's walking around with no shirt on.
Yeah. Well, that's only part of the profile, but he beats his wife, right? His ex-wife, or his wife for so many years.
Really?
He's allegedly amassed a private fortune, and I suspect if that's true, that's possibly being fed to him by these wealthy people.
Oh, I
We
went down there.
hey.
Yeah, I went down there. Okay.
Yeah, well, if we go into China, you have a look. What's happening in the Chinese dynamic is not only are they buying up a lot of assets, but there's a lot of new elite, wealthy elite, and that's really the model these guys ran in America. What they did is they made a lot of people rich, but they basically owned them, and they owned a lot of politicians. Your whole political system is one where the rich guys get to really decide your politics. So it's really more money than it is a democracy. That's the way I look at it. And we're not that much different over here in Australia either. We've got a guy called Frank Lowy who comes from what I call the Pharisee persuasion, and he's had a heck of a heavy influence on our political dynamic. So, yeah, anyway, that's part of what I'm putting together in this next book, which I'm thinking of titling, What's This Thing Called? And I capitalised the D and put that in brackets, and then I put evil. What's this thing called evil? Because my first book is What's This Thing Called God, and I'd write that G-O in brackets D. Because my premise is that we have an innate goodness in us, but there's also this second element, which is this selfish arsehole stuff. And that's what I think these people basically live by, this paradigm. And the other thing that I'm aware of is that the media are very much owned by a lot of these wealthy people.
Oh,
I think, yeah, they influence our thinking, and they feed us news. Like, I mean, where's all the investigative journalism that should be attacking these conspiracy theories? It just doesn't happen.
Oh, no, it doesn't. Not here either. Yeah.
Well, neither here, no, because it gets suppressed.
Yeah.
It's down. And that's not democracy. Democracy is about free expression and saying what you like and no freaking secrets. So that goes back to my comment about, secrecy being a problem. So there you go.
Yeah, probably loud. Yeah. Who we had? We had JFK with he made that speech, right? Against secrecy.
Yeah.
Secrecy societies.
Yep, and I've got that speech. I was going to put it in my book. It's a ripper speech. It really, I wasn't aware of it, but it's a very telling speech. He speaks very candidly about exactly that there are people playing puppet master.
Yeah.
So you better start learning Russian, I think, or Chinese, mate.
Yeah.
That's why I get a bit impatient. I'm just itching to have the debate because my thinking is, like, I don't like, I want to have a fight about it rather than just sort of guess that it might happen. So my thinking is the soft underbelly is the religious argument. So I want to have that argument, and if I can get that argument in the public domain, I'm going to sprinkle it with all this other conspiracy crap and start challenging the heck out of that. Because I reckon that's the way to bring these people undone. So I have a very clear agenda. That's me.
So you think Huh. Wow, I got some crazy theories going in my head now. I'm thinking about Russia and China. I got all this stuff going on in my head. These possibilities now. I've been talking these wild things. Yeah.
Well, you know, yeah, well, I wish I had time to put together the second book, because then what I'd be able to do is give people what because I got a whole list of evidence that goes back to 325 AD, just waiting to be laid out in a story. And I wish I had it probably a bit more advanced, but I'm just dead set focused on having the religious debate as my priority at the moment. But here's the thing, right? To keep it simple, so you don't go too crazy. It's just the two wolves. That's all that's happening. You got selfish folks and you got good folks. Fortunately, there's a lot more good folks, but the selfish folks have got the money and the power, because that's what they thrive on, and that's it. What are you doing, mate?
I'm thinking, man. I'm thinking.
Oh dear.
Keeping him awake.
No, I think I've. I don't think you wanted to think, did you?
Yeah. You know, and we have a big, especially in New York, a lot of Russian Chinese neighborhoods over the past since the 80s. It started happening. Reagan
Yeah.
years. Reagan kind of was encouraging the immigration,
Yeah.
and actually even giving funding, you know, for Russians to immigrate over here. And I saw in my neighborhood, which was used to be, you know, Italian, Irish, and some Jewish. It was European, you know, that kind of deal.
Mm.
So now, since the 80s, the whole I don't live in that area anymore, but it's mostly Russian and Chinese now in good parts of Brooklyn and Queens. I mean, they got blocks and blocks. It's like Chinatown. It's pretty
Yeah. Well,
wild.
it's the same over here. We've probably since, when did it start for us? Probably about 10 years back. Chinese guys have been buying up property all around Australia, and it's had an impact on our house pricing. So we've got an inflated, we've got a bit of a housing price bubble. And the other thing that they've been doing is buying up, they bought up one of our main shipping ports down in a place called Warrnambool in the bottom part of Australia. And the other thing that I picked up too is that up in one of the Korean peninsulas, excuse me, you get, they're building a massive port. And as soon as I saw that, you know, it's about, I think it was about a $400 billion project. As soon as I saw it, I sort of had a look at it, where it was positioned, and I thought, oh shit, that's where all our resources are going to get shipped into China, you know, because we're reasonably still resource rich as and there's a lot of, you know, a lot of land that's underpopulated. So, you know, and there was an interesting dynamic too just recently where, you know, that plane that went missing.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, on the back of that, we had some Chinese warships come down into the territory on the premise of actually helping out with the search, and then we had some of the military planes come into our Perth area. But what I found really interesting, there was a very quick little news grab that said that the Chinese government, on the back of the success of relationships with Australia with the search, would like the Australian government, or sorry, the Australian Armed Forces, to lead the war games that China and Australia are participating in July. And when I heard that, I thought, oh yeah, right, you bastards want to come in and bloody learn how our military operates. That's what you're up to. So there's a lot of weird shit going on at the moment, I tell you. And Islam's another one. That's a crazy, and it's all coming out of Nigeria. I'll bet there's a hell of a lot of shit stirring on the religious front from pouring out of Nigeria. You see a lot of it on the internet, where these young Nigerian boys will attack the Bible and just fire up the Christians. Yeah, so I find that very suspicious as well. I mean, if you want to, sorry,
China,
go on.
China's taking over the world.
No, no. I think honestly, the people that are doing it, I'd call them Pharisees. I think it's the Ashkenazi Jewish faction, and I think that they're moving their operations behind Russia and China because they need They need to keep two states underneath them, sort of like a separation of the powers. In America, what they did is they split that reserve banking system, and you had this the monetary policy was ungoverned, and that's what I think was your undoing. It's also been our undoing over here in Australia. It's led to higher debts than we should ever have got to. So I think what they're doing is they're moving camp, and they're just
Yeah, maybe
setting up. And I would,
it gives a wild thought. Maybe all those ghost cities in China. You've heard about those?
yes, I have. Yeah,
Maybe all the Jews are going there. They're building
it could be.
them.
Shit, I never thought of that. That's actually probably,
Yeah.
that is a really interesting thought. Because the thing is, if you're going to move, you've got to have things set up for you. Wow. Huh. Bastards.
Uh-huh.
Jeez. Oh, I saw that you had an exercise over in New York City there. And New York apparently has all the gold, but then someone told me, no, it's already been moved. But there was an exercise in New York City, when was it? Not that long back, but they did this big, massive drill. And I thought, oh, right, there you go, because I think that's where probably all of the big money players and all the big bankers, they live in New York, don't they?
Oh yeah, Jersey.
Yeah. Well, see, if my theory is right, they've got to get the heck out of there without getting caught in any sort of shooting match. So when I saw that particular big drill, I thought, oh, that's interesting. That might be part of the evacuation strategy or some bloody thing.
Yeah, man. Thinking about it, God, there could be an army being grown right under our nose between the Russian and the Chinese. I mean, it's not far-fetched, right? Like I told you, there's a population growth here for the past 30 years. If anything, you have to defeat America from within. You don't do it with the army.
They talk about, there's one guy that was talking about high altitude atomic explosions. I'd heard that once, and they spoke about one bomber going off, but then I heard this more credible guy on one of Jesse Ventura's show, and this guy seemed to really know his stuff. He was talking about if you're going to do that, you needed 6 to go off to actually shut down the infrastructure. So he was talking up an idea like that. I don't know what it does to the population underneath, but I couldn't imagine anything where they want to hurt the environment. That would seem counterproductive. And then you see all these conspiracy theories about bloody rows and rows of these coffins.
Oh yeah.
You've seen that one?
Yeah, I heard about that. The FEMA camps and all this stuff.
Yeah.
So, I don't know what the hell to believe anymore,
Well, I choose to believe only this. Cancel the friggin' religions and we'll have a better crack at, getting to a stabilised world.
Yeah, well, I don't know.
I'll have a crack. Huh? I'm going to have a crack, I tell you.
Yeah, it's part of the problem, that's for sure.
Yeah. Oh, I think it's a huge part.
I was getting into, stuff about how the Federal Reserve, all that stuff, and reading up on it, and I listen, watch other YouTubers, and that's another part of the problem too, and waking people up to that as well about,
Well, you might be surprised to know it's actually all connected, a whole lot of it.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Yeah, it is.
I won't doubt it. There's probably some kind of evil trinity going on, right?
Well, the only way I can explain it, because it seems totally illogical that you could have bad badness last so long, if you know what I mean, because in my life experience, you know, it sort of tends to drift towards, you know, trying to get back to being good. But the only thing I can come up with, and I've heard some chatter about it, is that it's like there's this second background religion, and it worships the evil side of things, or the ego, and the, you know, the pyramid paradigm, that sort of thing. I've heard that sort of argued, and that probably would make sense. You'd have to have some sort of infrastructure to sustain it for so long, because you know, I would have thought that even a bad old dude, you know, would have to wake up that it's not a good way to die, you know, with just all money. You know, you want to reconcile relationships and all that sort of stuff. That sort of puzzles me that, you know, it survived so long. And the only way I can think of it is if there's some sort of religious infrastructure. Now, see, rabbis are direct descendants of that Pharisee thing that goes right back to Persia. And I'm very, very convinced that that's a crooked religion. And same for Christianity. I believe that's as crooked as well. Yeah. Whoops, more boys in the room. Hello.
What?
Hello.
We got more guests.
Who popped in? What's up, man?
Ruben, and is that Eon?
Owen.
Owen, sorry, Owen.
That's quite right.
Yeah. We've just been
Very
talking.
Irish name.
Yes. Will Shipman.
Oh, Ruben's gone to take a shower. He'll be back in a while.
Grant.
What he says.
Yeah. That was like 15 minutes ago.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
So, we're convinced that the Chinese are taking over the world.
You're convinced that China's taken over the world.
No. I said Russia-China coalition.
With India, I think India in that too.
I'm not so sure about that. I haven't seen anything about India that makes me think they'd be involved.
You know the golden rule. The one who has the gold rules.
True, yeah. And who's got it? Who's the guy that's got it?
Russia and India.
Who do you think's got the gold?
I just told you, China. Definitely China, the big man.
Yeah. Mm.
Tons and tons they've been buying for over a decade. Yep.
Mm. Yeah, I think if we're to have any hope of a sane world, somehow that gold's got to come back. Somehow.
What may I ask? Why is it a concern if the Chinese or indeed the Russians have the higher percentage of wealth?
It's not so much that. See, I've been positing a theory that says that the Pharisees who, so I'll just use that collective term because I don't like putting the Jewish flavouring to it.
Sure.
It's more of a, to me, there's a Pharisee elite or an elite group that are looking, perhaps, they bankrupted America, and I'd suggest that they're possibly looking at and are currently funding and backing Russia and China. And the reason they're doing that, I think, is because they're trying to make a move for the big, you know, the end game, global domination, by getting Russia and China together to ultimately attack America.
I see.
And an end game move. So there's the high level theory.
Okay.
Mhm. And I've got. Yeah, sorry, go.
No. I'm sorry. I'm processing what you're saying. I couldn't say that I could disagree with you on any particular point, as I'm not perhaps as well well-educated as you on some of the things that you're talking about, but I would very much like to hear more as to
How I came to that conclusion?
also why. I mean, my understanding of trade and commerce is that we're all trying to sell a product, and the more supply and demand there is in the system is that everyone gets to make money, and that's ultimately the plan. So why is destroying America an objective here? Like, you know what I mean? What do why does America represent a threat?
Yes, okay. So here I'll offer an explanation. So what I did, just a bit of background on me, I wrote this thing, what is this thing called God, and I've got a conclusion that says that the Roman Catholic Church and the Pharisees of old really are servicing empires, not the true God concept. And that got me interested. Well, what happens beyond 325? So I started research on that. Now, what happened when I came to America in about the 1900s? Because I was following the Pharisee faction as they came out of Germany and Prussia and
Sure.
moved into America. What I noted was that J.P. Morgan, who I think has connections to the Rothschild family, who were big right through the 1700s, and they they still dominate, I think, but they sat back in the background. But J.P. Morgan purchased Carnegie Steel, and that was done in the 1900s. Well, before that, there was a guy called Jacob Schiff. Now, he's also from that Ashkenazi Jewish faction that I'm labelling Pharisees, and he was a guy who bankrolled Japan's industrial revolution, which made them more of a power threat towards China, and then on the back of that we had conflict over in China and Japan.
Sure.
If we come back to the States and we move forward to 1930, we find that episode that's popular amongst the conspiracy theorists, and what happens there is that we get a situation where the American political dynamic changes because the reserve banking model is pulled out of the political governance, and it sits on its own. And to me, when I saw that, I thought, well, that's a typical divide and conquer strategy. If you've owned the money, or you're influencing that board or in any way, and you're then influencing public opinion, and then you can sneak around the other side and get into the politicians' pockets, well, basically you're controlling the whole dynamic. Now, if you look at the debt situation in America over time, a lot of that money went into war. Now, one of the industries that profits out of the war dynamic is steel. You getting my drift?
Yes, sir. I think I'm starting to get a picture now. Yeah.
Right. Now, what happens is you build through that course of time, you end up building a complex underneath your operations, and there's people that are being highly paid. Probably some of it to be kept quiet, some they're kept quiet through intimidation and all the rest of it. But nonetheless, you've got a lot of people that are in the know that are within your group while you're carrying out what I'd probably call covert activities. And then if you look at the dynamic in America right now, what you tend to see is there's a strong challenge. Oh, sorry, I'll say that pyramid is supported by the religious organisations as well within the thing. So what you see in America now is it's almost broke. So that's a problem for this pyramid because it's no longer got this feed of revenue coming in to support it. It's probably would struggle to create another war. There'd be a lot of objection within the United States. They probably, fed up pussy's bow with their boys going off to war. You've got a strong challenge coming from the atheist sector against the religious paradigm, and it's getting very, very fine and articulate. So it's representing a stronger and increasingly stronger threat. The atheist movement is starting to focus on the church-state separation, which would be a powerful split and something that these guys wouldn't favour. And you've also got the conspiracy theorists really mounting a number of strong challenges. you've got the Twin Towers event. You've got 1,000 odd architects are saying that that's foul play, and they want to open the books on that. You've got Jesse Ventura's making another crack at the Kennedy assassination, and I think all those things sort of are linked. So, I mean, if I was the guy running that pyramid, as I said to my mate here, third proverb. Yeah, sorry, mate. If I was sitting at the top, I wouldn't be sitting there waiting for you guys to work out that this is what's going on. The strategy I'd be implementing would be I'd move to a more comfortable space. Now, if you move over to Russia and China, and you have a look at Russia, well, we hear that there's still 70% RC, Roman Catholic, and they're under strong governance. And the same can be said of China. So and plus, they've got all the money as well. So it would be a great place or a great safe haven to move to and away from the threat. But not only that, if I could convince those people to make an attack on America, then you've actually finished the game. You've got world domination. And I think, you know, when I think of these pyramids and these types of structures, I tend to think of them as egoic, which means that they're greedy arseholes that want to own it all. And if I look through history, that's what I see. If I look at the Roman Catholic Church and the Empire and their partnership through history, it was always about resources and owning it all. And same with these Pharisees. They were very much into, you know, accumulating as much gold through history as they could. So, to me, you know, that's the big picture play I see, and I think that's the reason I think that, you know, there's a possible threat coming back to America. The problem you've got is you've got insiders on the inside, you know, and the media, as far as I can tell, seem to be controlled by these same people. So it means that the message is very filtered, and it's very hard to get a thorough, open investigation of what might really be going on.
I see.
Yeah.
Well, that was certainly comprehensive. This is not. I mean, obviously, I'm just going to be slightly skeptical. It's not none offense to you. This is the first time I've heard any of this.
Yeah. I'm a groundbreaker. I've worked out how religion is crap.
Oh yeah, sure, yeah.
Yeah. No, but I've actually got an argument, and I've got a 5 corruptions theory which explains where the corruptions happened, how the prophecies are all bullshit, and that's the book, and I'm trying to get that out now. That's the reason I'm sort of out and about on the internet. Sure. I really want to take on, but at the same time, I actually bring something different to the table. I actually bring to the table that I'm a strong supporter of the person Jesus. So I'll certainly present an interesting case if I can ever get it to market to argue.
Sure. You support the person Jesus?
Yes, correct.
Just as he was represented in the Bible. Not. Are you meaning perhaps not so much his divinity, but his?
What I mean specifically is he was an Essene Jew. He was called the righteous teacher. He lived at Qumran, in that community. His brother James picked up that mantle of righteous teacher, and his philosophies, the best record we've got of his actual philosophies are the Gospel of Thomas, which the church have vigorously over the years tried to suppress. But if you actually examine those 114 sayings, you'll see clearly they're a very, very sound explanation of who we are as humans, and it ties in very well with a lot of the other good spiritual teachings. I think Plato, and I quote this thing about these two wolves that the Cherokee speak about, and then I relate it back to the Gospel of Thomas. So yeah, I think he was just what he strikes me as being like would be a John Lennon, I think.
Sure.
A bit of a rebel with the cause, and I think that's why he got killed.
because he was unprecedented. He was a new type of animal, perhaps.
Well, no, it's a bit more clearer than that. So I start the story back in 540 BC with the Book of Isaiah, and I say that that was written by the Persian Empire to take over the Jewish religion. They already owned the Jewish territories, but their pattern was, and there's evidence of this on the Cirrus Cylinder, their pattern was that they would also take over the religion. Now, in doing that, I think Jesus actually worked that scam out, and he was calling it out for what it was, because he was one of those types of individuals that had a clear insight into humanity and how we operate, you know, like a Gandhi or a, you know, that sort of type of person.
Uh-huh.
And so I think him calling them out and having, because see, they had all the scriptures at Qumran, they had all of the old scriptures, so I think somehow they've nutted it out, and he was calling them out or bad mouthing them or whatever, and getting a strong following, because we had those, his following had gone up into Asia Minor, so he must have done a fairly good job of bringing people away from Judaism, so he would have represented a very strong threat, and I think for that reason they knocked him off. You see, his teachings, at least if you read the Gospel of Thomas, they would have seriously undermined Rome's con, because Rome had a con going with the Roman gods, right?
Okay.
Well,
I don't
I
know if I'd call it a con, but
Oh, I would, because you know they're just ordinary folk, and they're sort of saying that they've got this relationship with the gods to their people, and this special relationship. To me, that's a con. So, and if you get a guy that Jesus comes along and says, no, there's no God up in the sky, that's all bullshit. It's all been made up. But he does, in turn, say that inside all of us, there's this egoic side, and then there's this good side. And in life, it's best to choose. So being the choosing ones, choose that good quality, or you know, work with the family dynamic and be just a genuinely, authentically selfless individual, and that's the choice I think he would recommend. Versus what the Empire would recommend is look after number one, and if you can get the Emperor across the line, everyone else will be fine.
mm-hmm.
See? Yeah.
I don't know. Well, okay. Again, like the reason why I wouldn't say it's a con, though, is that I do genuinely think that these people believed that this stuff was true. It's just kind of where their heads were at in that point of history. Like, I don't think they were trying to pull the wool over anyone's eyes or even trying to deceive themselves. They may have actually thought that this stuff, this is what was real to them for that time.
Well, I could give you an so for me, right, I'll go back to the Persian Empire rather than focus on Rome, because I didn't really pay much mind to their god structure. I wasn't terribly interested. But
sure.
If I go back to the Persian Empire in the Book of Isaiah, it's pretty clear to me that, well, I'll preface this by saying, if you look at the research, the archaeologists and the Egyptologists will tell you that for 100 years they've been looking for evidence of the Egyptian exodus, and they've pretty much given up. And they draw a conclusion that Judaism came from the Canaanite tradition. If we look at the Canaanite tradition, we find that it's polytheistic, and on the list of their gods we find Yahweh,
right,
and a story relating that back to I am that I am, and we also find El, which is the equivalent of Elohim, which we see in the biblical context. So what I say is that when the Persian Empire took over, and if you look at the Book of Isaiah quite carefully, you find that this Yahweh character is promoted very clearly in 40:22 to a position in the image of an emperor, so he's put into a throne, and he sits atop a vision of the way they describe it's a vision of a, you know, what you'd call a gift shop snow dome. Right?
Sure.
So you've got this circular earth, there's this firmament canopy that covers it, and you know, from what I can understand, that was the way people viewed that world, and it makes some form of sense. I mean, if you just took yourself and you had no way of travelling outside your land, it would make sense that based on what you could observe, that you lived on a flat disk because you've got no other aspect to take into consideration.
Right. There's no frame of reference at all for what you're experiencing, so it's unreasonable to come to that conclusion.
Yeah, it is. I mean, you know, you wouldn't call them nuts. It's just a reasonable conclusion.
Right.
And they used to think that there was water outside that dome, above it and below it. So that's where you get the term in the Bible of as above, so below. And that's, I guess, the way they explained the rain. And also, if you go back to the Noah story, they talk about water coming up from below as well as from the sky.
Mm-hmm.
So that's very clear in Isaiah 40:22. That's exactly what they're saying. And what I concluded was that what the Zoroastrian Magi who work for Cyrus today actually wrote the whole of the book of Isaiah, and it was framed to actually consume control of the religion of the people of Judea. And they did that for this reason. It wasn't profitable to kill your enemy. It was better to bring them into your ranks because it's a numbers game. If you want to increase your army size, if you've got empire expansion design, and I think that the reason they did it is because of the importance of that peninsula and its relationship to Egypt. And I think their designs were to move next into Egypt. And if you actually look at the history record, 490 BC, we actually see that happen where the Persian Empire takes over Egypt. So I think they're about building a loyalist front line by brainwashing these guys down in that area. And also, you know, you've got the idea that they introduced at that point about temples, you know, being of something spiritually context. Well, that's bullshit. They've just got nothing to do with spirituality at all. What they're about, they're what emperors like. They like fancy new houses, fancy looking, you know. So, to me, and the other aspect was, if you actually read Isaiah, you can divide it into two sections. The first section's about pasting guilt onto these folks from Judea, and if you look at their makeup, they're bloody shepherds, or they had some other small anti sort of activities, but they're not like the barbarians, the Assyrians and the Babylonians were, because they were quite brutal with these people. I mean, I found an article on where they'd stick the Jewish people that they captured on skewers, like shish kebabs.
Sure.
So they were pretty nasty types. And here we're told in this Bible that, you know, God's pissed off with these Jewish folk who, by the way, since the time of Isaiah, were a client kingdom, and they probably remained a client kingdom under empires ever since that time. So we're supposed to believe that, you know, this universal God called Yahweh is just pissed with this little client state called Judea, and he's got no ill concerns with these barbarians that go around raping and pillaging all their neighbours. So that's book one, that's part one, and so it's about establishing a false sense of guilt with the people. And then when you move to part two, which starts at Isaiah 40, we're told about this comforter, you know, or this comfort, come to me, I'll comfort you. So, all right, now they got them spooked. So what they do now is they apply the comfort story and say, right, now to get back into God's good favour, you must do these things. And I think it's in there, or it's certainly in somewhere in the biblical literature, we see the request from God to have his temple built, you know, and to walk this path back into, like an exodus, if you like, back from Babylon back into Judea. So to me, it looked blatantly obvious what was going on. It was just a scam, and it was all done by the Persians. And from that particular point to this very day, that's Judaism. It's been corrupted to this bullshit magic crap religion, and Christianity have bought into it. But that's another story for later on, sort of thing.
Sure. Christianity would have bought into it. It's interesting. I mean, this is a completely unique perspective that I wouldn't have heard before. I mean, I grew up as an Irish Catholic, which I'm pretty sure you could
Yeah.
pretty easily tear to pieces. I think most people could.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, the book I cover 5 corruption periods. So what we just spoke about was the first one. Then I attacked the Book of Daniel.
Sure.
Then I move forward and explain Jesus' demise and the rationale for the Pharisees to go out and try and. So Paul, I think, was a Pharisee from birth to death, and his agenda was really to rein back the Essene communities into the Jewish fold. Christianity didn't exist till 70 AD when Roman Emperor Nerva wrote the New Testament. Well, he wasn't the actual author, but he architected the whole strategy to write Mark. Mark was for the Alexandrians because we had a guy called Mark that went over there for the Pharisees, and the Romans now needed to take control of that. The Book of Luke was written to address the Jewish population, and then Matthew was for the wider community. And why we had the nativity in Matthew and the Magi story, it was a symbolic way of saying to the East that, look, the Magi are bowing to Christianity, which now Rome owns. So, and the Book of Acts, that was written to recount Paul's letters because he had in circulation several letters, so it was easier than destroying them to just touch them up a bit with the Book of Acts and add a bit of magic in there. See, the thing is, if you look at those 7 letters of Paul's, you'll find that there is not one Jesus miracle in them. And my contention was that, well, that's because they never existed until Rome invented them later on in 70 AD. What you will find, though, is 2 Pharisee bits of magic, and that's the resurrection concept and the Messiah concept, which comes down from the Persian crap.
Sure.
But and then the final. So that's the 4th corruption, and then the last. So the 4th corruption was the Roman business. And then the 5th corruption is when Constantine actually adopts Christianity for the whole empire, and as they say in the classics, that's the rest is history.
Uh-huh.
Uh-huh.
Well.
It's
just sorry. That's quite a lot to take in, to be honest with you. It's certainly more. This is obviously the result of quite a number of years of research.
Well, I started the whole process 20 years back, and it was triggered by the Rwandan massacre. I was a bit set back by that. I didn't quite understand how in our modern world that sort of atrocity could happen, and I wanted to try and understand it better. And before I really got into researching that, I stumbled across the Gospel of Thomas, and for some reason I was taken by some of the early comments, and its opening line says, if you can work this stuff out, you'll lose the taste of death. So I thought, and it's true, it's actually absolutely 100% true. What that means is you lose the fear of death, which is something Plato knew was a quality in the wise philosophers. But anyway, so what I did is I went through and did the whole 114 sayings, and you know, they were all perfectly rational, logical explanations of the spiritual condition that you see in other theology, you know, other good spirituality. So that led me to question, well, why the hell was the church saying it's rubbish? So then I did a comparison between that and the Synoptic Gospels, and I found that 61 of those sayings in the Gospel of Thomas were actually in those Synoptic Gospels. And then I came across Q-source theory, and that made sense. That sort of says that basically someone used the Jesus sayings and used them for these things. And then when you look at the 53, the sayings that left, well, they spoke about a personal relationship with an inner God, per se. And but then I began to wonder, well, when did the corruption actually start? And I first looked at Constantine, and I wasn't satisfied that that was the point. So I kept pushing back and back. And then I came across the Apocryphon of John, and it mentioned the Book of Zoroaster, and then I went to look at Zoroastrianism to find out its roots. And that's what sort of got me back to the Book of Isaiah and Cyrus. But all in all, I probably spent about 2 years finalising it, and the rest of the time was just looking at bits and pieces when I had spare time.
Sure.
And now I'm starting on a book, what's this thing called? Evil. 325 AD to current.
325 AD to modern.
To modern, yeah. Following the Holy Roman Empire and the Pharisees. And it's really shaping up as an interesting tale, I tell you.
Huh. So, where do you get where do you get your information from? Like, where do you get a lot of your research material?
Yeah, well, that's where I get criticised, but I just use Wikipedia.
Sure, no, I mean, it's, Wikipedia comes with references.
I do get attacked by. Well, here's what I say to anyone: when I get with people and talk about it, I'll be attacked for using Wikipedia, and they say it's uncredible. But my response to that is that, hang on a minute, I have a single theory. It runs 900 years, and Wikipedia supports it at all points. Doesn't that sort of say the opposite of Wikipedia, that it's actually quite a healthy resource? And the other thing about Wikipedia is that they do have their references quoted anyway, you know, in the footnotes. So, but anyway, that's the reason I used it. It was just so much more efficient. You know, it was really quick to get through, because you got to go through piles of shit. I tell you, there's just so much. I
can only imagine.
Oh, mate, I tell you, it's unbelievable. The amount of material and crap that's been written about, well, I say almost about nothing, because I hold the premise that sky gods doesn't exist. It's all just bullshit. But the amount of material that's been written is just beyond belief.
Oh yeah, no, I'm perfectly happy to believe that. I mean, God, people have been writing about this pretty much as long as people have been able to write. This is the thing that we started writing about first, and we've been.
Yeah. Well, I'm sort of comfortable with my research. I'm happy with where it all ended, and hence the book. And the big hope I hold is that, you know, people get to have another look at Jesus, because for the religious guys it gives them an out, because they're a damn stubborn lot, I tell you. They're locked into their bloody belief paradigm, and you try and change them, it's very difficult. And it's not that I want to change them, but I want them to actually experience an alternative bit of information. But part of the design of the Romans built in was really to say, don't listen to anyone else. And it was done deliberately.
Oh, sure.
It's like what Muhammad did with that last prophet crap, you know. You know, that was basically stopping anyone coming after him to trump his story, really.
Well, when you look at how Christianity spread, starting with its origin point, and then once Rome sort of got a hold of it, when Constantine sort of got a hold of it, then it just caught on like wildfire. Even places as far north as other invading places like Sweden, Norway, other parts of Scandinavia, Denmark, when these countries started to grab a hold of it, and these were countries that loved to invade, right? These are countries that loved to conquer. When they conquered and they took over land, they brought their religion with them.
Right.
So it's little wonder how quickly and efficiently it managed to spread. But I think that it's tough to say why it was this one. You know what I mean?
Which one?
It's tough to say why it was why it was Christianity that really caught on. Like it's not a particularly from my own perspective, it's a particularly attractive religion. Like, you know what I mean? There are no heroes.
No,
there are no great deeds. Yeah. It's as quoted in Beowulf, it's crying martyrs.
Yeah. There's a simple explanation for that, though. I mean, you've got to remember that the biggest biggest spurt for that religion was Constantine.
Right.
And so what you had is you had this marriage between a very significant empire and this religion. So that religion got all the support of the empire because it was serving their end. Does that make sense?
Sure.
So if you
Sure.
then start moving forward from 325 AD, you actually see that Roman Empire, and it's called the Holy Roman Empire, by the way. You see that, you watch that move through history. You know, that was really tied to kings. Hey, Nadia.
Holy Roman Empire is a much later, a much distinct thing.
Is it what? Sorry, a much?
I said the Holy Roman Empire was a much later and much distinct phenomenon.
Then when?
Than the classical Roman Empire.
Yeah,
and the Byzantine likewise.
Yeah, well, perhaps let me rephrase it and just say the Roman Empire with the Christian Church in as its church. That starts for me at 325 AD, and it's unbroken to today. Is that a better way of?
There are some qualifications to be made, but after a somewhat later point, it can be agreed upon. It basically ends up being a matter of timing.
There's certainly a marriage between those two entities, the empire and the church,
yes.
at the point of Constantine. And if we look at history, that marriage stays in place all the way through to today.
The marriage, the quote-unquote marriage, as a formal relationship does, the actual force of power, or whatever you want to call it, of the religious part doesn't come into full bloom until much later in the empire. And in fact, in the Eastern Empire, it's a relatively gradual onset.
Yeah, I won't debate you on that point because I haven't. All I've done is grab the points of interest through history at the moment. I haven't started to thread together how they relate to each other. So it's early. Yeah.
I also don't think it's a point that so much contradicts you as maybe disputes with its details. So.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting. Anyway, so there you have it. What's happening?
There's a lot to absorb there, Rob.
No, two wolves. Two wolves.
Yeah, yin and yang. Yeah, Rob, you were talking about because I got sidetracked. I let you and Owen,
Yeah.
Owen. There's a lot of stuff we've heard before, but you're talking about Wikipedia, and going your research. I know how that goes. You start looking at something, you go into these tangents, and you start chasing the rabbit hole.
Yeah.
But you mentioned the saying "as above is below."
Yeah.
Yeah. That and you said it was in the Gospels. It's not in the Gospels. It comes from more of Eastern thought. Have you looked into? I'm going to give you a link. It's a Wikipedia. I don't know if through your study.
No, I accept what you're saying there. The as above and as below is an early concept, right? I agree with that. If I said that it belonged in the Gospels, no, it doesn't. I agree.
Yeah. But have you looked into Hermetism? What was it? I put a link in the side. Hermeticism? Is that
Hermeticism.
Hermeticism. Thank you, Nadia. Very interesting. I'm reading through the Wikipedia thing, and the parallels, but that's where there was saying where the original saying came from. But this is very interesting, though.
John, could you also invite Clayton Koski? He's hoping he can get in.
Oh yeah, definitely, Clayton. Yeah,
Only the moderator can invite. So.
he's the religion. Yes, yes, yes. Let me see. Did he? You know what I'll do? What I'll do is I'll post a link. I'll post a link. And the parallels, but that's where the. Oops, sorry. I don't know what the hell did I do. I'm sorry about that. I got too many freaking Windows things.
Yeah, I spelled his name in the side chat, or internal text chat, so you should be able to fully spell it out there if you care to try to issue an internal invite as well.
Okay, let me figure out how to do this. Hold on a second.
You see, hovering over the center of the top edge of the Hangout window screen, and then well, the People Plus button is usually on the far left, beside the mute and camera on off and bandwidth and so on buttons.
I gotcha.
Yeah, it'll have a menu interface to invite him and so on.
He's already in my circle. I don't know why he didn't get in here, but okay. I got him. I got him. Invite sent.
If it's a circle of more than 25 people, the cutoff is 25. It'll be what's called a quiet invite, and he will not receive a notification for it. So doing it individually will help him see it and be able to actually get into the Hangout. So.
Oh, thanks for the tip. All right. Well, invite sent. Oh, he's gonna keep me up, and I was just gonna go to I was thinking, man, I have a long day tomorrow, but I'd be interested if the thing comes in. But
in the meantime, cream of chicken soup of well, it's not crucifixion, then Calvary cross or some such.
Did you pray to it?
I probably should. There's some kind of like soup prayer affair. Cream of chicken soup. That's the specific type involved in this form of prayer that will somehow help me get a job that'll pay for my rent.
What I like about here, the philosophy, I'll just this real quick paragraph.
So we're looking at
ultimate reality is referred to variously as God, the All, or the One. God in the Hermetica is unitary and transcendent. He is one and exists apart from the material cosmos. Hermeticism is therefore profoundly monotheistic and a deistic and unitarian understanding of the term. For it is ridiculous. For it is a ridiculous thing to confess the world to be one sun, one moon, one divinity, and yet to have I know not how many gods.
Where are you reading that from, mate?
I put a link on the side. It's from Wikipedia. It's,
Well, I've got the link up that goes to Hermeticism, Good and Evil. Is that the one? I'm just not picking up where you're reading from.
Oh, I scrolled down to
okay.
Philosophy. Yeah.
Philosophy.
Yeah.
Oh, as above, so below.
Right.
So which paragraph are you reading?
Hold on. It's above. Yeah, it's above that picture. You see the picture? The magician.
Yeah, I do.
On the tarot.
So it says philosophy, and then it goes on and says in Hermeticism.
Right.
The ultimate. Is that the one? The section?
Right. Exactly. Yeah, that's where I was reading from. Yeah.
Okay. Sorry. I'm just going to have a quick read of that just to see what he's saying.
I'm to Clayton. Where is he? Excuse me. Hey Clayton, what's up?
Hey, so I don't even know how I managed to get in here.
Nadia asked me to send you a invite.
Yeah, I mean I know that because I was trying to get in, but then I didn't receive the invite, and then I found like a little button on your page that wasn't there previously, and this site is fucking convoluted and confusing.
I know, it's freaking crazy.
It seems like they constructed it in a way that is deliberately confusing. And every time they update it, they want to make it more and more confusing. Anyway, hello, I'm here. Hello, Rob.
Hi, how you going?
I've not seen you in a while.
I'm just around.
I've been trying to get in contact with Nephilim, and he has been deaf.
See now.
Right,
Remember,
I know. He just disappears.
Remember I said that one of the problems that you get in this type of debate is that if the believer perceives a real threat, then there are only two possible outcomes. If you've got them in the room, you'll see the flight-fight response. They'll try aggression first and very short and sharp, but either response will avoid evidence. So my biggest concern is that if this guy got any insight into who I was or what I was about, and he sensed that threat, he may want to avoid the discussion.
He's just like disappeared from the internet. I have no idea. But
maybe the CIA have got him.
I don't know.
Has he put out any videos? How often does he make videos?
Neff? Oh, I have no idea. He used to be a big thing on YouTube. I haven't seen him on YouTube lately, but he's been popping around on Google Plus. I've been in a few rooms with him.
Right.
Because I remember from his heyday on YouTube when Thunderfoot was attacking him. But I haven't seen him in a while.
He I don't know the guy, but I suspect that he'll be back.
Yeah, I mean, I hope so.
He won't be able to keep away if he's been around for a long time.
Yeah, he has been around for a long time.
Part of who he is.
Going, what was it, a night or two ago, and he posted in the comments, why would I come in a room with such a name or something like that? Because I was the other day, oh God, I named the room Boot the Sneeze. It was a play on
Boot the Sneeze?
Boot the Sneeze, yeah.
Yeah, I saw that. I occasionally get an invite to something from you, but I can never click on a link to it, which is irritating. But it'll get oh, the Hangout exists, and then I'll go to Hangouts and anyway, I'm gonna stop ranting about Google Plus's website structure.
So he just put I did hear from he did post a comment 2 days ago, so I know he's around somewhere.
Right.
We wound up having a good chat. I mean, we avoided religion for a good 2.5 hours. It's got to be like a record.
Right?
Well, should I scream bloody murder about it? How, the Christianity so on is spreading all the bigotry, the social norm, making all the hiring managers kids like Ace Ventura,
You're not going to get any
hire me in job interviews and so on, or what?
You could, I guess.
Alright.
Screen training about every 100 feet when I go down the street, or what do you want to hear about religion? I've got plenty to say about it. Okay, sorry. I guess I took it to the subject you didn't want to touch at all.
I'm sitting.
Clayton, I think maybe you wanted to address something that Rob was saying, because.
What? Yeah, I heard that it would be interesting if I came into the room. What did you want me to comment on?
I don't know. I know, Nadia told me you wanted to come in, and I know you have a strong
Yeah.
background in religion and different religions, right?
Well, what was the issue? Because I saw that there was a hangout, and I was like, hey, this would be fun to jump into another one, but I couldn't find to get in. So I was more concerned with this. The reason why I'm ranting about the structure of the site is I spent probably about 5 or 6 minutes trying to figure out how to get into the room I was kind of listening off and on to what was being said. So if there's something you want me to address, I'd want to do what it is.
Oh, nothing in particular, really. I just thought you were listening. You wanted to get in and maybe address something Rob was saying, because I know Rob was going on. A lot of stuff.
Me and Rob do disagree a lot, on everything. But
Wow.
I don't know what he was saying. So what were you saying, Rob?
Yeah.
Well, like I was saying, I differ a lot in detail more than the actual final conclusion.
Yeah. What were you talking about, Rob?
Yeah, so what I was talking about was we were having a bit of a chat about world dynamics, I suppose, at the moment, and then I offered my sort of thinking, which was that I felt that I think the guys were saying that most of the gold had gone across to Russia and China, and that was an interesting paradigm, and that it might be a good thing in one sense, because they're running an economic model that perhaps the states should have been running, backed off the gold standard.
Yeah.
But then I threw out a different viewpoint, and one that basically said we could be in the West in for a bit of trouble. And this is the way I'll try and get through it quickly. But basically, what I was saying is that my research now is looking at the Roman Catholic Church as an empire, or a support for an empire, and the Pharisees, and watching them move through history. And then when I got to the 1900s, I noticed that J.P. Morgan had bought out Carnegie Steel, and then prior to that, we had an event where a guy called Jacob Schiff had funded or bankrolled basically the Japanese Industrial Revolution in Japan, and that led to some conflicts in between Japan and China. Then if we move back to the States, if we move into the 1930s, most people are familiar with the conspiracy theory that the reserve banking system is a cookbook. Well, I tend to think that that's probably true. What it did is it split the money. It took the money out of the governance of government, separated it, put it as its own entity. And I think that's been a trigger that has allowed a lot of manipulation of American economics and led to a leaking of money and an increase in debt. It's like creating a credit card. If you look at it over time, that credit card's been maxed out. That credit card's been maxed out. That credit card's been maxed out. And then...
Just go ahead, sorry.
Yeah, I'm just trying to give an overview, Nadia. So that credit card's maxed out. What that does, and so what I'm suggesting is that there's a group that I prefer to call Pharisees rather than anything else, that are actually manipulating the scenarios in America, and they basically max the card out. Now what I think they're doing is moving their financial might and their manipulation across to Russia and China, and I'm suggesting that it's possible that that's a deliberate move that's going to ultimately lead to an attack on America, and that's about an endgame play where these guys get to sit at the top of the world, like global domination. And the reason I say that they're considering that move is when I look at the American scene at the moment, I see a rise in atheism, which really attacks the religious paradigm, and it's getting quite strong and very, very intelligent in its debating. It's getting more and more stronger. That's a definite threat to this paradigm that these guys in empires have been running through the centuries. I also see the economic situation being strongly challenged across the state, and the conspiracy movement are getting finer and finer arguments together against certain key events in America that I think could possibly relate back to this type of background manipulation. So they're sitting in a hot seat, and I don't think that they're going to sit there and wait for you guys to work all this shit out. So instead, they move forces behind where the money is, move it over to Russia and China, and then set up the stage for an attack on America, and then they've got no more problems because they sit at the top of the global environment.
Okay, there are two or three things that are actually the whole world has to be disputed here. But I want to go on about the Federal Reserve System in particular. In that case, the formal structure set up was very much one of, quote-unquote, devolving the governmental power and influence and so on to private entities. That formal structure, on the other hand, has not actually set informally in proper stone. The democratic democratic formal structure has exerted tremendous influence upon it that outweighs its putative independence from that democratic, whatever I call it, affair. And to the extent that it is actually being manipulated or dictated from these oligarchic and or plutocratic affairs, it is...
Nadia, are you saying it's corrupt? In a more complex way, to the extent that it is being dictated and influenced by these oligarchic and plutocratic forces, it is by means of that oligarchic and plutocratic domination of the formal democratic structure of the U.S. legislature and executive branches, not the putative, quote-unquote, independence and so on that so many claim make it kind of a pawn of the plutocracy. When you have that kind of influence, it is not strictly a matter of, well, merely the House of Representatives or the Senate or whatever voting a policy into action. It is the same kind of plutocratic force dominates those elections. Bring out influence with
Breaking up, Nadia. You're breaking up, Nadia.
I'm sorry, but yeah. The main thing is you have a common source of plutocratic influence dominating the normal institutional frameworks of government, like the legislature and the executive, that are in like fashion dominating the Federal Reserve. And you cannot attribute some kind of banker
Nadia, break it up. Or is it just me?
No, it's not just you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Breaking up a lot. I'm barely understanding. So.
Nadia. Oh boy. I'm gonna have to mute you, Nadia. You're breaking up.
Nadia, we need a flying DeLorean to understand what you're saying.
You cannot attribute a banker conspiracy to
Nadia,
Computer.
How's everyone doing tonight?
Look like a quote unquote.
how come I can't mute her? Why isn't this happening? Oh, okay.
There you go.
Little delay there.
Was Nadia saying that she felt there was a conspiracy, or what? I didn't really get it.
I don't know, me neither.
I heard something about Pluto.
Hey, John. I'm sorry.
Hey, you doing, man?
Yeah.
How's your night been?
I'm tired. I didn't expect it to go on this long.
So what's the topics? The politicians are fucking us all in the ass, and it's a big conspiracy.
Well,
Not a conspiracy, it's a fact.
Yeah. Well, you know,
If
the
the
word
politicians
government
were
means
fucking
mind
in the ass,
control.
at least they'll be getting laid.
I'll put it simple. All right, I'll try to keep it simple. You ever heard of the golden rule? Whoever has the gold rules. Well, it's China, Russia, and India. So I mean, that's how I see it. They're looking to, for the domination of the world, and perhaps these other characters who undermine the U.S. and the West, using the Federal Reserve. You have the bankers and stuff. I mean, these things are, these are known. That they're gonna kind of, they're working with the Russians and the Chinese. This is Rob's theory, right? Pretty much in a nutshell. And
Yeah.
we're headed for trouble, and I can see we're headed for trouble. And the only answer usually is to go to war, right?
Yeah, I don't think that'd be a good answer in this day and age. I think there is a better answer, and I think it does start with attacking religions. And then the other element of a counter-offensive against this type of activity is to actually open the books.
Sorry.
I'd say that open the books on history. I think that there's a lot in history. There's a lot of good work being done by a lot of so-called conspiracy theorists. Well, open the books and let's challenge it, because I think...
And I think there's a movement happening, Rob. I mean, with the thing of the internet, I mean, since YouTube, just 2005, you see more people deconverting from Christianity than you see people converting to atheism. That's from what I'm seeing, just from an overview. Because you have this information flowing so easily, you have, people thinking more critically, and, so...
Yeah, but you've got to also weigh into it. Imagine
the beliefs are changing.
Yeah, but imagine if you were that rich guy sitting at the other end, and assume that he knows all this and that he's actually orchestrating some events. Do you think he's going to be unaware of that change in the internet?
Oh, no, not at all.
And do you think he would sit there idly by and wait for it to come and catch his ass?
And that's why net neutrality is getting killed in the U.S.
Yeah, exactly. There's a strong push to try and kill it, and that's why I think
it is dead. Like, it's pretty much dead.
How so? Just elaborate if you can.
That'd be great.
I mean, I just saw that there was a decision from the whatever it is, 3-letter organization that lords over the internet. That they're gonna kill net neutrality. It's not gonna be.
Well, I think if that happens, that's the trigger point where we as a community have got to not allow that to happen. I think that would be a very dangerous proposition. I mean, we've got shit media at the moment in terms of spreading information around. If we were to lose the internet, well, yeah, that wouldn't be a good thing.
Got to go back to our
It's not a good thing, and the fact of that bad thing is essentially happening.
I think so. I think so.
Yuri. Hey, Yuri, how you doing?
Can't really. I'm doing all right. You can't really see anything when I turn my camera on. Way too dark. Hello.
What's on your mind, Yuri?
Well, I don't know much about what religious history, especially. Rob knows a lot about that sort of stuff. I'm surprised you two are in the same room here, Clayton, Rob. Did you guys do your debate yet?
So what?
Did you guys do your debate yet?
No, we haven't. We've been trying to get Neff, and Neff has been. Rob's all about it. Neff is not.
Going away.
So,
If you find Neff, tell him to contact me. And
okay.
like if you ever happen to be in the same room with him, just be like, "Hey, Clayton's trying to get in touch with you."
Is he answering your emails or anything?
He hasn't given me his email. I've been contacting his Google Plus, so I just kind of either have to run into him again or, you know. But Rob's like totally down. He wants to do it.
Yeah,
Well, maybe the idea, guys, might be just to get him and get it done. Don't worry about any of the formal stuff.
Neff goes on when he's hammered, pretty much. That's
I send Nephilim 3 messages, you want to do a debate, I don't know, pick a topic. He doesn't answer your messages, I call him out on YouTube. Make a video, call him out.
No, he'll go on when he wants to go on, when he's, good and...
He's good and ready.
In a debating mood.
When it's hammered out, yeah.
Well, we could do a session one time and what's wrong with Neff?
No.
And sort of bait him out that way, just sort of put it out there and say, rubbish him a bit and make him come out of the woodwork to defend himself.
Nephilim, if you're listening,
like,
Nephilim,
what, recently, sorry.
Nephilim might be, he might be watching. Like I said, he posted a comment the other day, I don't know, but, hey, Nephilim 3, you're listening. Get in touch with Rob and Clayton over here. Let's get this debate going, man.
Just have this
I've been
feeling.
trying to arrange this for a little bit now. It's all hinging on Neff.
Honestly, Rob's gonna smash him into the dirt.
Well, I don't know. I might get a hiding, but I just want to have the session. I'm very keen to.
You're reasonable, Rob. Though I mean, like you pay attention when people speak to you. You have your moments, but you're technically more logical than not.
Sometimes.
Is there a particular topic you want to debate with him, Rob?
I want to debate. I want to set up a debate so that Rob's the affirmative. It was a topic that Rob and I were talking about. This. Is the God of the Bible a fabrication by, I think, the Roman Empire and the Persian Empire?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I want to see if Neff can combat that against Rob.
Yeah, but you added a very good part at the end, and it was about, and is it about control?
To control populations, right? Was it fabricated to control populations? I didn't leave out like who. I left out who it was on purpose, so that you could outline that in your. Because I think it's more complicated than just the Roman Empire, the Persian Empire. Am I right?
Yeah, well, I'd probably just leave it at the Persian Empire because that's enough. Because that's where you blow.
I was very interested in your Roman Empire portion, so I think that would be a good point because that's where it hinges on Christianity. The Persian Empire is more about Judaism.
Well, you read the book.
But that's where you actually get the sky god created, the concept. So you really do need to start at that point, and then the problem that you would run into is can you actually get through all that context and get up to Rome within the scope of the debate? See, here's one thing I think will happen. He'll get to a point where he'll want to leave. So you want to try and get as much material done before he actually gets to that point.
Right. No, Yuri, I haven't read the book. I just.
Well, you sound like
I just take notes. I understood his argument when we were in conversation about it. Really, what it came down to is whether or not his sources were good. Which, whatever. I think that there's a lot of in the conversation, the stuff that I had problem with, he said was extrapolation from.
Yeah, there's a lot of leaps of faith there.
Yeah, and so that's when I got really, really angry with him and started yelling.
Yeah.
Look, take your meds, Clayton.
I need to take my meds. I'm not having. need to kill something.
But it's part of the process. And look, I'm going to read something to you guys, and it'll explain why we go through those little moments.
Well,
It's part of the process, right? Now, this comes from Jesus. Those who seek should not stop seeking until they find. When they find, they will be disturbed. When they are disturbed, they will marvel and reign over all. And after they have reigned, they will rest. So the process of discovery, if you like, when you're dealing with these, what will we call them, spiritual matters, you go through, it's an unavoidable stage of disturbance. It's part of the process. Because what's happening is your belief paradigm, the thing that you sort of govern or judge reality on, may well get a bit of a shake-up. So, you know, that little bit of excitement is part of the process. So I just take it with a grain
I
of salt.
definitely had that experience. By just
Not that I particularly care, but was that the Gnostic Jesus or the canonical Jesus?
Gnostic.
Gnostic, please, people.
Okay.
The G is silent.
Yeah, I know.
Well, in
I
Greek
don't-
it wasn't, but
I don't
still.
like the Gnostic applied to it either. Anyway, I prefer that it's the sayings of Jesus, the righteous teacher of the Essene Jews from Qumran. That's who I see him as.
Rob, aside from religion, do you reject any idea of any kind of God?
Well, the God question's a really interesting one for me because, right, there are some unresolved mysteries for me. And they are this. I could probably sum them up pretty quickly. I don't... I'll try. Nostradamus is still a puzzle to me because I found a logical explanation for the biblical prophecies, but I cannot yet give an explanation for his. And I found some... I think I'm up to about 18 that intrigued me, to say the least. Now, so that's prophecy side, and I don't have an explanation for that. And if some of those things happen to happen in the near future, then I'm at a loss for an explanation. And I don't like the idea of prophecy because I think life's to live better without knowing what's coming. So that's one element. The second element is I don't yet have an explanation that I'm happy with for the source of wisdom, courage, temperance and justice, and this all of a sudden disappearance of a fear of death that occurs. I don't have an explanation or a suitable one, and I don't have an explanation for migratory patterns, you know, where a young animal species will, without any obvious transfer of data, will know where to go and travel around the globe. So those things still bemuse me, and I don't have an explanation for how they work. So, you know, there's still a mystery about this God thingy that I leave an open door on.
Good.
That's my answer.
Okay, so in the event, that was cream of chicken soup and the soup can of answered prayer and so on is still quite unanswered. There's still no jobs, still no rent money, and
You're praying to the wrong
I
can of
say
soup.
that. Sorry.
You're praying to the wrong can of soup.
Well, perhaps so. Still, I tried quite a few, and in the course of that,
You need Progresso. It's all in the name. It's all in the name. You need Progresso.
yeah, I dare say that these deities and whatever kind of sky daddies and fairies and so on are
They don't exist.
not particularly pertinent to everyday life. Yeah.
Correct. So, Nadia, what's your issue? Your issue is that you can't get work. Is that a problem for you, or?
Well, it's
Is that
one,
the-
of course. It doesn't help the reasons why are the particular
No.
things
Can
that they
I give you a
are.
suggestion? Can I give you a suggestion?
I am terrified already, but go ahead.
No, don't be. It's just that, so like I've worked in a number of companies and that, and one of the things that I found really good in employees, the best employees, was this authentic selflessness model. So I guess if I was looking for work, the thing that I would suggest, and it's only one thing, consider meditation. Forget bloody prayer and pray into your can of soup. But if you can do some meditation, or maybe even, like I do a bit of Tai Chi, and I find that very good because I get some physical feedback and it helps my physical well-being. If you were to do something like that and be patient with it, I think that will silently do more for you than that can of soup.
I would agree there.
That's all
All
I'm
right.
saying.
So would I.
Okay.
Get out into
Yeah,
the nature. Get in touch. Get out and surround.
Go to a gym, something like that, but something that's physical and also meditative, I think is really good. And it sort of just brings you to a different place, I think,
Yeah, definitely.
It takes a bit of effort, but if you stick at it, I think it helps. It certainly helps more than prayer. Anyway.
Yeah, I have more concrete ideas still.
All right. Oh, good. Yeah, I think the key is doing something concrete and substantial, And if you like, I'll read Jesus to you. He's got a great little saying about that. What he says is, Jesus said, "Those who know all but are lacking in themselves are utterly lacking." And what that actually means is, don't live life in your head. Just put it into practice. One of the things that I conclude now is that meaning and everything comes from experience. So it's the actual participation that's the real education in life, particularly when it comes to spiritual matters.
Well, I dare say spiritual
So put your
matters
plans in action.
don't mean a whole lot
your
when you're getting dumped into a men's shelter with a group shower full of 5 or more ex-convicts. You tell me, where are the words of Jesus that are going to save you from that?
Well, the meditation might ultimately help you be more resilient to those external things, because there's another wise saying. It says, know that which you can change, know that which you cannot, but more importantly, make sure that you know the difference between those two. And what that relates to is really the thing that you have got ultimate control over is yourself, but you got sweet FA control over the externalities. So, I think that's good things to think about.
That's pretty insulting. Okay.
Well, I know that's your ego again. Sorry, I'm direct. I just say it how I see it.
Well, I'm pretty direct too.
Hey, there's another one, there's a thing, there was this guy, he's making a movie, and I actually gave the guy a couple $100 to fund him. And his movie was, we are our own worst enemies. I think that's a truism.
Yeah. We are our biggest self-critics, too.
Is this
Yeah,
going to be
well,
about a prison bitch who prays to Jesus and still gets gang raped every day?
Sorry, I didn't hear that.
You're gonna have to bring a shank, like take a toothbrush and shave down the side, hide it on the pillow or something.
Hey guys, at this point,
Is that one of
I'm
those
just
God helps those who help themselves when
hold on.
Yeah.
where
I'm
the
just
rapists have
stop
been
going
pumping
live.
themselves up in the prison gym,
Oh,
and the bitch has been getting starved
yeah.
in solitary.
Sorry, I didn't hear that.
I said, is this when the rapists have been pumping themselves up in the prison gym, where and the rapist and the bitch has been getting starved in the in solitary? You know, you gotta tell the bitch to pray to Jesus, and well, somehow it stops or attenuates the harm inflicted thereby, or what are you gonna tell?
I wouldn't tell anybody to pray to Jesus, honestly.
Yeah, exactly. Right.
So try me, Rob. Where does this transcendental meditation or praying to
Yeah.
Jesus or
No, no,
spirituality do any good?
no. What I said was, I think that meditation is helpful, and maybe you can find a group that are into meditation, and it might be beneficial. That's all. And this is where I sort of say that unless you have that experience, you're never going to know. You can't know by just making a mental judgment about it. You've actually got to get into the experience to find out whether it is actually of some value. Making an assessment as an external judgment doesn't do anything for anybody. Least of all.
Well said, Rob.
Yeah, that's a really good point.
Yeah, very good. Well said.
I've given
Well,
you
it's
a
actually
bunch of
true.
points.
It's pretty obvious.
I'm sorry, but you know, all the transcendental meditation in the world is not going to, well, number one, slow down a rapist. Never mind, anyhow, attenuating or
What answer would
alleviating the harm.
Nadia, what answer would you accept? What answer would you accept? You're in a dilemma, you're in a situation, you're going through a trial, you're going through a down point in life, you know. I think Rob is just trying to offer you hope, which I guess you can't logically, hope is just, this.
Not a trial, it's
You
doomed.
can't prove it. You can't prove it. Therefore, I'm not even going to try it. So I just want to know what answer are you looking for? Are you just looking for someone to write a check? I mean, I don't understand. We're just trying to help you. Rob is just trying to offer some insight, trying to encourage you, try to help you, try to give you a different perspective, try to, meditate, change your mindset. I believe a lot has to do with your mindset.
For me,
Your
is it for me or the hypothetical victim? Well, mindsets are preposterous. That's
So what
bizarro, racial algebra, captain of your destiny. Oh my dear God, the imaginary whatever is going to stop the rapist.
Oh, Nadia, I guess you have all the answers, Nadia, because obviously it's working out really good for you. Okay, so I don't know what to tell you anymore. I mean, I'm just telling you straight up. It's like people were trying to give you advice, trying to help you, and you just want to kick them to the.
I got an answer for you, all right. The answer is you're fucked. And
You're drunk.
This is okay, Nadia. This is your ego again.
Patient.
Yeah, you actually have to try it out before you can reject it.
Yeah, this is okay. This is what I was saying before about the disturbance.
try to how?
Well, what's happening, Nadia, is you're crying out for help, right? In one sense, that's very egoic because you're stating quite clearly, I just need help. I can't seem to work my way out of it. What you don't like to hear is that you actually hold the answer. The ego doesn't like to hear that. What the ego wants is it wants someone to come and do all the work for them. And when that idea gets challenged, well, then your mood starts to change and elevate because you take it as a personal attack. And that's sort of
Which hiring?
Wait a minute.
Hiring manager, stop speaking at me because I'm a freaking tranny.
Wait. That's the ego paying out the sympathy card. That's all that's happening. I just think that the best thing for you is to start to take charge of things, because I hold this view that we humans have a tremendous capacity that we're unaware of, but we will never become aware of that without engaging certain experiences. One of the most powerful experiences that we can engage is stopping thinking about ourselves, stop being self-centric, and starting engaging, caring about other people. There's a really interesting dynamic that happens when you actually make that conscious choice. It seems illogical, but what comes from it are those 4 qualities. This is where you earn the stripes of courage, wisdom, justice, and temperance. They come from that moment in time where you drop the attention inwardly to the ego and the self and all the self-pity and all the rest that goes with that, and you switch your attention to caring about other people. It's almost like bloody magic, but you can't know that thinking about it. You actually have to get into that stuff to get that experience, and those things then come from the experience. Right?
And when did
So,
I
you
stop
know-
caring about other people?
Beg your pardon?
When did I stop advocating and on behalf of the poor and whatever downtrodden? Well, I never did.
You don't have to start there.
The fact of the matter is that the capability of acting to materially alleviate any of the poverty and homelessness or whatever they experience has been removed from me, and